South Carolina imploded today against LSU. They lost this game 36-33, and LSU didn't win this game. South Carolina lost this game. They were up 17-0 at one point in the first quarter, and they could have been up 28-0, but they had 2 pick sixes that got taken off the board because of penalties. They had 3 turnovers themselves, and I know that a lot of Gamecock fans feel like the boys in the black and white had it out for them, but there were just as many egregious calls against South Carolina that they were against LSU. I felt like the officiating in this game was pretty balanced with how bad it was on both sides. South Carolina outright lost this game against LSU. You had the missed field goal, which could have sent this game to overtime. Your passing game struggled. Even when Lenore Sellers was in the game, he wasn't that good throwing the football. The dude threw an interception in the red zone. You know, South Carolina's passing attack is not good. They don't really have a lot of good receivers, and their offensive line isn't really good in pass pro neither. This is a run-first team. And when they have success running the football, they're a really hard team to beat because they got a really good defense. And in the first quarter, you saw South Carolina's defensive line absolutely wrecking LSU's offensive line. And LSU doesn't normally have this bad of performance when it comes to their offensive line play. They got 2 future first-round picks at offensive tackle, but you couldn't tell with how bad they looked this afternoon. Like, South Carolina's defense was doing their thing out there. Rocket Sanders finally made his presence felt. Like, one of my homies texted me, he said, JT, when the hell did Rocket Sanders transfer to South Carolina? I was like, yeah, you obviously weren't paying attention because it's South Carolina. Who's paying attention to South Carolina football unless you're a Gamecock fan or you're just a diehard SEC fan? Like, South Carolina is a really good team once they get that run game going. But when you force them to have to throw the football, that's when they get themselves in trouble. But they imploded against LSU tonight. And I know you South Carolina fans are going to disagree with that. You're going to make all the excuses, but you had everything go right for you in the first half. You know, you had a block punt, Beamer ball. We saw Beamer ball make an appearance in this game. I mean, like, there were too many opportunities South Carolina had to outright win this game and either kick themselves in the foot because they had dumb penalties, or, you know, you just had some questionable coaching decisions late in this game as well. Like, the clock management out of Shane Beamer had me kind of scratching my head also. But South Carolina should have been up 28-0 easily in the first quarter. You know, they lost this game. LSU didn't win it. And South Carolina is going to be one of those teams where, you know, if you got to play them on the road in their house, they could come away with a few upsets. Because with how good their defensive line is, this is one of the best defensive lines in the country. And they showed it against LSU. LSU, they don't get beat like this on their offensive line that often. And despite the criticisms that I have of Brian Kelly, he's always good when it comes to having that offensive line up to snuff. So South Carolina's defense is legit. And if their offense can be a little bit more efficient in the passing game, they could be a better football team than expected coming into this season. And that's why I picked LSU to win this game. Because I knew that even if South Carolina had success on the ground, they were going to have to throw the ball to be able to seal the win, and they weren't able to do that. So this was a really disappointing loss if you're a Gamecock fan. Some of y'all probably didn't even expect to be in this game. Some of y'all might have been surprised that this game was close, but you know, like, when you have games like this, especially when you're at home, you got to be able to capitalize off them. You can't have too many mistakes. You know, LSU literally handed you this game. You had some calls that went your way. You had some calls that went against you, but that's just football. And that's my high school coach used to tell me, if you don't want the refs to impact the outcome of this game, don't allow the game to be close. You could have dominated LSU, but, you know, you just couldn't be disciplined in certain moments. You had some stupid penalties. Some of them were questionable calls. Other calls, you deserve to be called against you. But at the end of the day, you imploded. You should have won this game. You dominated LSU up front, both sides of the football, and you were able to get the Beamer boys going. You know, it's just really disappointing that South Carolina couldn't seal off this win. And I don't expect for South Carolina to miss field goals, because what Shane Beamer emphasizes is special teams. That's why they call it Beamer ball, because there's not a better team that plays special teams better than how South Carolina does it, with how good Shane Beamer is on that end.